Okay, guys, we're live.
Nothing short of perfect, the sinless, the blameless Lamb. And though he didn't deserve it, he was bruised, beaten, scarred, and scorned. He came to earth just to save us, give him the glory. He freed us. By this we now love. Jesus laid down his life for us, and we ought to do the same. Love is not just what we say, 'cause our actions lead the way. So now this life I'm living, I'm giving back to him. Through the flesh it's impossible, God makes all things possible. Out of my darkness his light shines. Jesus is unstoppable, his way for sure unchangeable. His kingdom is unshakable, the bonds of sin were breakable. Crucified with Christ I'm free. I no longer live, he lives in me. He's knocking on the door, door, door. Jesus lives. Oh, Jesus lives. My Jesus lives, and he can live in you. The choice is yours. You can have this joy too. Bless you, yes, he loves you. He will never leave. Let him live within your soul. Your soul. Your soul. Let him live within you.
Hello, welcome everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Before we get into our second episode of Testimonies and Tea, let's have a quick word of prayer. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, as we come to the throne of grace this evening, Lord, thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for being such an amazing God to us. We're just asking that you be with us at this time and be in this discussion and help us to learn and benefit something from it. I pray all these things in your son's precious name. Amen.
Amen.
So, hello guys.
Hola.
You guys will notice, whoever's streaming with us live, that I'm joined by some wonderful, lovely people who I'll get to introduce themselves in a moment. But yes, this is the second episode of Testimonies and Tea. As you can see, I have my mug. I don't know whether it's got tea in it, but got a mug. So yeah, without further ado, I'm joined by a few people. I'd like to introduce them. Actually, I'll get them to introduce themselves. So guys, you could say your name, current occupation, and maybe age. And if you're not occupied with an occupation right now, then whatever you're up to at this moment. So yeah, I mean, so any of you can start. Nigel, start off.
Well, you just said my name. My name is Nigel Maunganidze. I am a broadcaster. I'm a producer, presenter for radio, and I currently work for Adventist Radio London. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Who's next?
My name is Amanda Ndebele. I am a midwife by profession, but currently on maternity leave. And I'm 23. You asked for age, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, my name is Vimbai Kanyangara. I am 24 years old. I am working and studying both. I have not been furloughed, so I am very much going to work. I'm a project manager.
Brilliant, brilliant. And last but not least.
Yeah, my name is Alan. Alan Chiggs. Yeah, I'm a developer. I do a lot of things, but I'll just sum it up. I'm a developer. And I'm on fellow, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, my name is Micheal. I'll be hosting, not really going to be hosting, I'll just be discussing with everyone else. But yes, so without further ado, we're just going to be talking and discussing a few topics, some dilemmas maybe, and hopefully, if the spirit is leading, a few testimonies. So the first thing we're going to discuss, as you guys will all be aware, currently in lockdown, a lot of people have been losing their jobs, have been put under furlough. And some of you have already said, I was just going to ask if you could say whether you have been put under furlough, how long is your furlough going on for, whatever, and how you're finding it. So I'll start off with, we'll just go in the same order. So Nigel, are you furloughed? Do you have a job currently? Do you have to go to work? What's going on?
Well, I haven't been furloughed, so yeah, at the moment, I'm still going to work. Well, I'm working from home, so I'm still working, not really going there, but I'm still working. At the moment, you never know what will happen in the next couple of weeks or months, because things are changing. So far, so good.
Calm.
For some of us who don't know what furlough means, can you guys please explain? I'm just hearing this word, I'm like, I don't know.
So
yeah,
I can explain that. Yeah. So furlough, basically, it's a government scheme that was introduced by the government to basically help out companies not to sack their employees. So not to dismiss them, but so for them not to dismiss them, the government will give the companies a loan to pay the salaries of the employees. So it's been mainly introduced in the hospitality industry, where hotels, restaurants, and companies that are in those industries may lose a lot of workers because they're not getting any income coming in through their restaurants. So for companies not to dismiss us workers, basically the government stepped in and said, we'll pay 80% of those employees as long as you keep them on your payroll and under your staff. Once this whole pandemic goes, then we can resume, the economy can kick in. So they just did it so that basically they won't have too many people unemployed. So pretty much you are being paid by the government.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Oh, okay, so well, me personally, like I was saying in my little introduction of who I am, I'm a midwife by profession, but I'm currently on maternity leave. So my maternity leave started at the right time with this COVID. So I'm getting my normal maternity pay. So I don't have any of this 80% or being unemployed. But I'd work for the NHS anyway. So if I wasn't on maternity leave, I'd probably still be in the front lines along with the other NHS staff.
Before you tell us about whether you're furloughed or not, I realized I didn't actually say what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm 22. I'm in uni. I'm finishing uni. Yeah, basically I'm in my last year of uni. 4 long years, but I'm in my last year of uni. And I studied pharmaceutical science. Still studying. And I finish in a few weeks, dissertation due in a week or so. So yeah, I'm not on furlough either. We have Vimbai.
So I think I mentioned it at the beginning. I am not furloughed. Okay, well, project managers, construction wise, I'm not furloughed. I'm also a project manager at Amazon right now. That's currently what I'm doing. I am a junior civil engineer for an engineering firm, which I will not say. So both sides of the jobs that have not closed, we're still working very much well. I am currently studying as well. So I finished my 3 years of uni in 2018, went into work, and then I've gone back to uni again. So yesterday I submitted my dissertation.
Jeez, come on.
Hey.
Well done.
So yeah, so right now I'm working, but I'm not working as much as I'm supposed to be doing if we didn't have the COVID situation. So we're only going a few days a week.
Sorry, is it just me or you sound like you're underwater?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me, innit? Maybe it's my headphones. It's just me.
No. I got the same vibe, to be honest. Are you on Virgin Wi-Fi?
I am actually.
Yeah, makes sense.
Let's not blame Virgin, because I use Virgin as well. Mine is fine. So
okay. Yeah.
Well,
So
you've got those what's called that
massive like microphone.
oh well. It is
your
what
bed
it
is
is.
different to the rest of ours. Yeah, so 2 people who have been, let's not say furloughed for now, let's say people who have lost their job. What would you guys advise them to be doing in terms of, because I can imagine if you've lost your job in this time, you feel very discouraged, disheartened. So advice maybe, or a word of encouragement for somebody who might have lost their job because of this pandemic or lockdown. You can go in any order. Just shoot whenever you feel willing.
I'm going to be as practical as possible. Yeah. I'll let others do the other stuff, but being practical, I feel like, you know what, it is what it is, unfortunately, but you've got to start thinking of the way forward, you know, because you've got a choice to wallow in self-pity, or you've got a choice to, you know, get on behind the computer or get on your phone and actually start looking for a way forward, because it's just sad, isn't it, that the world itself doesn't really care how we feel about where we are. So we kind of have to step up and make things happen ourselves. So, you know, on top of the other things that you can do, I feel like my advice is just start looking. It might be a bit difficult right now, because if companies are struggling to pay people, then how many of them are going to be okay to take more people on?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but I guess you're going to have to start from somewhere, even if it means starting from the bottom and going back up until everything else goes back to normal, because what we want is just money to come in so we can pay bills and all that kind of stuff. So we've got to start hunting for those jobs right now, whether even the jobs that we don't like to do, you know, yeah.
Okay, and anyone else? Any advice, word of encouragement, maybe?
Just to jump on Nigel's point as well, I would say, not to sound too cliche, but in everything, I feel like God has a plan. So even in this moment where it's like people are losing their jobs and they don't know how they're gonna like survive in the next coming months, or how long this lockdown or quarantine is gonna last, I feel like just to remember that in everything God has a plan, number one, and number two, try and be practical, like Nigel was saying, in terms of like, there's so many now universities that are giving people opportunities to gain new skills, whether it's in marketing or any like any courses that you can do. So while you have this time, I know if you're stressing about like finances, you don't want to jump on a course, or like me, if you finished uni recent, like I'm not even thinking about trying to jump on courses, but it could be something that might further, when you eventually do get a job, you now have more skills that might help you get that job more easier than other people. So trying to like not wallow, like Nigel was saying, and just try and be more proactive in either gaining a skill or maybe starting your own little thing. Like, I know some people that are using this opportunity to start actually focusing on businesses that they've thought about but didn't really have the time because they were working and they were busy. Now you can use that opportunity to do things that might help you later on in the future when this quarantine is over.
Yeah, I agree completely. Anybody else?
Yep. So for me, I'll speak from a perspective of someone who actually thought I was going to be laid off, right? Before the furlough thing, was I knew that our company basically is the leading company which provides softwares to almost all the restaurants in the country. So like from the tills to you booking online, when you want your deliveries and stuff like that, we are the company behind all those softwares. But when they closed the restaurants, I thought we were going to laid off. I was going to be laid off. And the first thought was, I don't know if I can sustain myself for the coming months, right? So it was kind of like a wake-up call for me. So I think if you find yourself in this predicament that you're out of work, it's tough and you have hit rock bottom. But I also think that the positive, you have to look at the positive side, that this is what has happened. How can I prevent this in the future? So now it has taught me how to save. I've saved a lot of money. It has taught me how to prioritize things, not to be an impulsive buyer. Now I actually understand that, okay, even if we come out of this and I start working again, I have to save for a rainy day, not just save for holidays or save for, fancy things in life, but also save for a time as this, that if I find myself in this predicament, I need to sustain myself for maybe 3, 4, 5 months, right? So I think right now it might be very hard for someone to hear this, but it's also a blessing in disguise. Now you know what to do when a crisis like this or a situation like this arises again for yourself in the future. So those are some of the lessons I think someone might.
And so thank you. Just to latch on to what you just said then about saving, with even if you're not furloughed or if you have lost your job or whatever, finances coming out of this and the prospect of the economy coming out of this, would you say it's sensible to, because I know a few people that I've spoken to the past week have said that they've looked into getting loans, because a couple of my friends have actually been completely laid off for a while now. And like you guys said, they've been actively trying to find jobs. They've been doing this, they've been doing that. One of them even went to, because I know in the area where my friend lives, they were actually looking for people to start doing a lot of farming work, right? Because they were low on people to do farming work. They actually went over and started doing a bit of farming work, and he's like he was doing, I think he was he's working for Aon or something beforehand. So now he's doing farm work, right, part-time. So would you say it's sensible to, in this time, look towards getting a loan, if that makes sense?
I wouldn't advise that. As someone who has been in that loan road, I would say it's a hard road to come out of once you get into it. So let's just run it through. You take a loan, you don't have a job, right? How are you going to pay off the loan? And the more you don't pay off the loan, the more you're tempted to borrow from John to pay Peter, if you understand that concept. So you're borrowing from one loan to cover another one, and then you're just in this circle, and it's a never-ending circle. And because loans, they are not things that can impact you immediately in terms of, like, let's just say being homeless. So you took a payday loan and you've got bills to pay, right? You're going to pay your bills. You start doing a part-time job. When your pay comes in, what's the first thing you're going to think of? Paying your bills again. And then you pay the loan. But because you figure out that, oh, I'm going to pay off the loan, I'm back to zero again, I don't have anything to spend during the month, you end up borrowing again. So you're in this never-ending circle. So unless if you have got a plan of, if I take this money, how am I going to pay it off? And how am I going to get out of this one-time loan I'm taking? Then fine, do it with open eyes. Don't just do it for the sake of saying, oh, I need to survive today. We'll figure it out tomorrow. Because when tomorrow comes, you're in a bigger mess than you are in right now. So that's my advice, really.
Okay, thank you. So last question on this topic. Say the job that you have found, because you're being proactive, you're looking for a job, you're not sitting on your bum doing nothing. Say the job you found requires you to work on a Saturday. Now, this job has come out of nowhere, right? It's come like manna, right? And so you now are thinking, all right, cool, I found this job where there's no one hiring, and it's a good job that I could turn into a career moving forward. But they need me for now to start working on Sabbath. What are you doing? What are you guys doing, first of all? And like, be real, yeah? Don't give me PC answers, don't give me Sabbath school answer. Like, what are you guys doing? And what advice would you have for somebody who is in a situation like that?
You said don't give. Oh, carry on, Vimbai. Go on.
Oh yeah, so I'm going to be very real. So I think it's more like I actually hate working on weekends. I just hate working on weekends. So even if you're Saturday night or you're Sunday, I don't like working on weekends. So every time I go for an interview, the first thing when they say, do you have any questions or do you have anything to add? I told them straight up, I can't work on weekends. And you get the situation, should I tell them straight about my religion, or is it something that I can bring up later? Because some companies, it's something that you can then bring up with the HR later. But straight up, I don't like working weekends. And if they ask, is there anything in particular, then you tell them. And a lot of times is we tend to, it's going to sound cliche again, like you're saying, but we tend to rely on how we're feeling at that time. So maybe then you got that job, like you were thinking, oh, that's the only job that came, a hiring services, you could not get anything. But maybe the next one was going to be your job, but you then went on to get the other one straight away just because that's the only thing that was available. So sometimes it depends with what you as a person believe, because a lot of times, I mean, growing up, I was one hard person where I told my parents I would not be an Adventist when I grow up, because I felt like it was more, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do this. So it became like, you know what, as soon as I hit 18, believe me, I told my mom, as soon as I'm 18, out of respect, I will leave your house and I will never be Adventist straight away. But as I got to understand for myself what she meant by then, I actually realized it's actually not that hard. It's actually not that deep. Now I understand what it means. But if you were to tell someone, you cannot work on a Sabbath, if they haven't understood it for themselves, it doesn't make sense. So I wouldn't say there's exactly a way or a solution as to if you were to be told you have to work on a Saturday. It depends with me as an individual. Am I comfortable working on a Sabbath, or do I want to please people if I don't go to work on a Sabbath? But deep down in my heart, I really want to go to work on a Sabbath. That's the job I wanted. So it's down to you as a person. So I would rather do what I'm comfortable with, so that I don't leave like in the darkness. If I don't leave behind the scenes like, oh, I wish I could just done that. So I'd rather be the person who was upfront with what I want to do, take it on the Sabbath. People are going to talk anyway, but that's who you are. It's better I know that's the person you are than me putting a shadow that I'm not. So I don't know if I.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Before I go to you, Alan, Amanda, what are you gonna say?
I was gonna say, you said I don't want no Sabbath school answer, but the answer I'm gonna give was inspired by something I heard on NEC Youth Sabbath School lesson last week, and they were saying that someone said that it's not every door that God opens. Sometimes the devil might open a door for us to trap us. So at this moment, people are panicking. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going to get my next job. And they're looking just to get the next job. So if they find a job, an opportunity, they'll be like, oh, God has opened the door. He's given me this opportunity to get a job because he knows that I've been suffering or I'm struggling. But that job now is going to get you stuck to do things that is not God's will. Does that make sense? Especially if it's like they're requiring you to work on Sabbath. So I would say be very vigilant. Yes, indeed, you want a job, but like Vimbai was saying, that job that you might be running into that will want you to work on Sabbath might not even be the job that God has in line for you. He might even have a better job that's going to pay even better and take you better places, like places that he wants you to be. Like this quarantine might be an opportunity for God to use some people, like taking them away from their jobs that they're doing now to put them into a different place. So if we now rush into something that we know is going to help us to do things that God doesn't want us to do, it might then stop you from receiving what actually God wants you to do. And I remember when I was starting my job as a newly qualified midwife, I was so anxious to tell them that I don't want to work on Saturdays, because I was literally struggling to get a job. Like there was no jobs. It was surprising because I'm in the NHS, so why is there no jobs in the NHS? But there were none in the places that I was looking for. So I was like, if I tell these people that I don't want to work Saturdays, I was already struggling as a student trying not to work, have placement on Saturday. How about when I'm working now? It's going to be hard. But you just have to be upfront. Like Vimbai was saying, be upfront, tell them if they like it, calm, you're good. You don't have to struggle and battle with your mind every time you're told to work on a Saturday. But if they don't like it, then calm. You'll find something else. You will find something else. God is faithful.
Okay, thank you so much for Sabbath School answer. We love a Sabbath School answer as well. Alan, what were you saying? Or Nigel?
Go
okay,
on,
now
Alan.
you can start.
All right. I was gonna say, for myself, it's probably easy for me to choose not to go to work. Right? It's easy because I haven't got responsibilities. I haven't got a family that I have to take care of. But I'm trying to, think for somebody who's got kids, who's got a family, you've got bills, you didn't have any savings, right? So which means, if you have a car or finance, that car needs to be paid. If you've got rent, that needs to be paid. If you're renting to council, you're probably blessed because the council will be more understanding. If you're renting from a landlord, then it's a bit sticky. Do you know what I mean? So to that person, yes, it's a matter of principle, isn't it? The right thing is to not go to work. But when you are being threatened, I was during when was it? A couple days ago, I was reading this newspaper article in the Guardian of a couple of guys who worked in the hospitality industry. One guy was a chef. He was a chef in East London, somewhere in East London. And then literally his life turned around from being a chef to sleeping on the streets overnight, just like that, because he lost his job. The rent money, he didn't have any rent money to pay for his house. He was renting a room. He couldn't pay for that, so he couldn't stay in that house anymore. He was sleeping on the street from being a chef. There's so many people who are in that situation. Someone like that, and if you were to put in that situation, and for myself, if I ended up in that situation, sleeping on the street, yeah, that person has got family, nobody, no friends or nothing to take them in. If I was to be put in that situation where I'm sleeping on the street, I'll find it so difficult to stick to principle. So I am saying I can say, yeah, I'll stop working. I'm not gonna pick a job that says work on the Sabbath now, because I've got so many places I can go to. I've got family all over the place. I've got friends. I'm not gonna end up on the streets. But there's someone out there who isn't in that situation. What really happens for that person? And that's for me. If I find myself in that situation, I'm not gonna say, you know what, I'll sleep outside, rain, come snow, and I'll be comfortable. I've got plastics as a blanket or anything. I'm not gonna comfortably say that. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, no, okay, appreciate it. Appreciate the honesty. I think for the most part, I'm there with you. Alan, what sayest you?
My answer is gonna go all directions pretty much. So okay, let's put it this way. For us to be people who stick to our principles in times of trouble, it means that we would have had to practice our principles or our patience or our strong belief in God in times of plenty. If when you had a job, I'm going to give 3 scenarios. When you had a job, if you're not someone who paid tithe, or who was someone who had a close connection with God and understood the principles or what you grew up believing or what you believe in your heart of hearts that is the right thing to do, if you couldn't practice that when everything was okay, when the time of trouble comes, like i.e. losing your job, it's going to be very easy for you to just, falter and take the left turn. I'll give another example about patience as well. I think it all boils down to patience and our perseverance, and also our understanding of the principles of the underlying theme. You also say that God will say, oh, God opened the door for me. We definitely know that God answers prayers, but even the devil also answers prayers. So if you understand that, and you understand that the situation, I'm given a job and they're telling me that I have to come to work on Saturday. Okay. There are a lot of scenarios. Some may say, oh, it's in the health sector. I'm helping people in need. Yes, that's correct. But are your intentions pure in regards to your decision, right? If it's someone who is going to work in a farm, oh, we are plucking, we are hopping in the farm so that we can deliver to shops so that people can have food. We're still helping people. You're justifying your decision. But as an individual, I think this is an individual thing. Are you patient enough for God to open the right door for you, right? So if you're not patient enough for God to open the right door for you, obviously, you're going to take a hasty decision. And this is me saying it because I don't have a family, so it might be easier for me to look at this from this perspective. I don't know the psychology that would work if I had a family, a wife, and kids. But again, it all comes down to, was I living a Christian life when everything was okay? Was I following God's principles when everything was okay? Because if I wasn't, then it's not going to be easier for me to decide to choose the right choice. So desperate measures, sometimes when you're desperate and you didn't have faith in God, you do desperate things. And sometimes you always regret those things. Same thing with people who don't have husbands or wives at the age 30. You're not desperate. You end up taking whoever is near, and
that is old.
You live with. No, I'm saying it's just, some may say you're old. Okay, 30 and you're a lady. Some in other
done,
cultures.
I'll dug your hole already, bro.
You're shooting the shot, Alan. You're shooting the shot.
No, okay, let me justify my answer, right? In certain cultures, they might say, oh, you're not a bit old, blah, 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 blah. And then you end up, because you're not patient enough. The whole thing is, we need to be patient, especially as Christians, right? If you're asking this question to a Christian, a Bible believer, we need to understand that we need to be patient, and we need to trust in God, that God will always help us in time of need. It might not be the right time or the right perspective, time frame of what I would think is help, but God always protects his children. That's what I would say. Sorry, it was a long answer, but
No.
But you know what? Sorry, Michael. Yeah. Sorry, Michael. Quickly. Yeah. Alan, you were saying that if you're sticking to God's principles, if you're a law-abiding Christian before, someone has watched Law-Abiding Citizen there, but if you're a law-abiding Christian, all this time when things are okay, then when things go left, then you're gonna find it easier to stand the trial. And I don't know if I
not really.
Did I get you right? What did you say?
Okay, let me try to explain it further. I'll give you an example of Job, right? Job in the Bible. He had a relationship with God before even the trials came, right? Not just an artificial relationship of saying, oh yeah, God says we should give tithe, so I'm gonna give tithe because he's blessed me. But just a personal relationship, a personal connection with God. So it's not just the artificial, you following God's principles, but you actually having a connection with him. So when the time of troubles come, like with Job, he understood that even though this is befalling me, he had doubts as well. Yes, as a human being, you're going to have doubts. You're going to have questions as to why is this happening to me? I've done everything you have asked, Lord, why is this happening to me? But because you have a personal connection with God, he's going to help you to sustain or to see it through. If you didn't have a personal connection with God, and if it was just a matter of artificial connection, or so that people can see that, oh, he sings, he preaches, he does all these things, then that's what I was saying, it's going to be very hard for you to keep steadfast. I don't know if
what does a personal connection mean? Because Moses had a personal connection with God, but he still disobeyed God. It was a good Moses is like the prototype. When you talk about the law, you can't talk about the law without talking about Moses.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So he was the Don, but even with him being all those things, he still disobeyed God at one point. So are you saying that disobedience means that before you weren't walking close with God just because you disobeyed at one point?
No, it doesn't mean that. You can disobey or you can fall short, right? But do you acknowledge that you have fallen short, or do you defend the decision? I think that's where it actually becomes much clearer. So there are certain people where if you ask them, oh, why do you work on Sabbath? They automatically go defensive, right? And then there's some people when you ask them, why do you work on Sabbath? They can actually know that it's wrong, but circumstances. So they actually acknowledge that what I did was wrong, and I wish I have other options, or I'm still trying to pray that God delivers me out of this situation. So in a way, you're fallen short, but you acknowledge your wrongdoing. All the Bible heroes you're talking about, they fell short. Moses even fell short. He never saw Canaan, but he acknowledged his wrongdoing and God forgave him. Do you see the difference now?
No, but the reason why I said what I said is because you gave an example of Job and said Job, had a good relationship, was an artificial relationship with God. And obviously when you look at Job, even God described, the Bible describes Job as a righteous, man, right? So we don't even, from the beginning of the book of Job up until the end, we see a righteous man. So I can't, use him to as an example. But when you use someone like Moses now, or someone like David now, do you know what I mean? God, even though David was he started off as a good guy, as a young man. He was a good guy, up until he was anointed. And at some point, his head got big and your power and all that kind of stuff, and he got corrupt, and still he came back. But God still describes him as a man after my own heart. So I do get what you're saying in terms of if you know what you've done, what you're doing is wrong, right, and still manage to repent. So I feel like for me, the key thing is repentance, not necessarily the long trail of good things you're doing before, because you could have a long trail of good things you're doing before. That does not really save you, in it, because you could have just one thing where everything else will fall apart after doing a lot of good things. Doesn't necessarily mean it was artificial. It was genuine, but there's just one trial that was just too much for you to handle, and then you fell apart. So it's a bit of a difficult one to understand, but I get what you.
Tari, we've got hands. So Tari and then Amanda, and then I must segue the conversation to the next topic. One.
Okay. I'm not even meant to be in this chat, but I just wanted to say that I think what Alan was trying to say, what I understood anyways, was that he was saying that if you've been living let me not say a horrible life, if you've been living a life where you didn't have a relationship with God prior to, I don't know, for example, Hilton now offering you a job where you work on a Saturday, I think Alan was trying to say was that it might be difficult for you to say, I am choosing to work on a Saturday simply because this is for the better for people that I might be serving. I might be serving people. Your intentions for making that decision might not
truly be based off you being someone who's making a good decision based on other people that you want to serve. I think that's what I got. But before Michael says something, I've got a question that someone posted. They said, I think it was the short one, 123, said that, so now if you're in the situation that Nigel was talking about the chef who became homeless, if you're offered a Saturday job, do you then go on trusting God, or do you take the job?
Yeah, and the reason why I think that question's good as well is because, like, I don't know if this is very wrong in me to say, but how do we know that job didn't come from God? You know, like, and I'm not to say that the job came from God and then God is now saying you have permission to work on Sabbath. But what if the job has come from God and it's a way to test your faith, kind of thing? Yeah, no. So that question, very good question.
So, oh yeah, go on, Amanda.
Yeah, go on, Amanda.
Oh, yeah, before you guys start answering that one, I was just gonna say, like, I feel like what Vimbai said when she was answering that question was quite legit, because it's all about your conviction, to be honest, because we can sit here and say what we would do in our scenarios and what we would personally do, but if you're the person who's offered the job, it's your conviction, because it's you that's gonna have to feel comfortable going to church on Saturday. If you're not convicted, or you don't have, like Alan was saying, that relationship with God that's making you feel bad about working on Saturday, then that's you, isn't it? So it's not, we can't say to you, oh, you should feel bad because God says you shouldn't work on Sabbath, because you don't feel bad, or we shouldn't say that, or even if you feel bad, you can still do it anyway, because you know you've been given this opportunity. So I think it's how you feel and what you can say, like, do you know what, heart to heart, I feel comfortable, I feel like, you know, God has opened this door. If you can on Judgment Day speak to God and say, you know what, God, I genuinely thought you opened this door for me, then we can't tell you otherwise, you know what I mean? But in terms of this question, to say that even the guy who's homeless, how then can you stay faithful? I feel like it's these times that you exercise your faith, because we can, true, we can sit here because we're not in the situation and say things, but it's the truth, because it's when trying times come, that's when our faith is really revealed. Because when we're living life Gucci, we can say, yeah, I'm faithful, because we're living life Gucci. There's nothing that you're struggling with. But it's when struggle comes now, that's when you have to trust God and say, do you know what? Okay, I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent next week, but God, because I know God will do it. God will not put me in something that now I can't bear. Yes, you're homeless because you couldn't pay your rent, but God knows that you're homeless. So there's always a positive out of a situation, even though you might not be able to see it right now. You being homeless might then give you a testimony when all things are good, to say, I was there and I've managed to get out. So always think about the positives, even in this situation.
Thank you so much. So yeah, if we could get one person to maybe answer that question, I'll just ask the question again. So if you're in the situation that Nigel was talking about, the chef who became homeless, if you're offered a Saturday job, do you then go on with trusting God, or do you take the job?
Again, I mean, speaking for myself, I mean, I've had those situations before when I had to, not necessarily sleeping on the streets, but when I had to choose between working on the Sabbath and actually not going to work at all. But putting these guys' shoes is makes it a little bit difficult. I would want to say that if I end up in that situation, I would say, you know what, because we're so fortunate that we live in the UK. You know, we've got there's so many things within the system that we can take advantage of. So I don't have to go to work. I can just, claim this, claim that, and stay wait for that particular job to come. And also, again, according to laws in this country, if you are if you can't work because of certain religious reasons, then you're not supposed. Nobody forces you. So we're quite fortunate in this country. You know, I guess you can never really give an excuse to say I was about to die. There was nothing, because you can get benefits. You know, nobody's forcing you to go to work, because you're protected by law. You know, there's so many places where you can go, unless if you're concerned. I really believe that sometimes it could be an issue of, how are those people going to see me if they see me claiming these benefits? if they see me going to a debt advisor, if they see me doing ABC, and what are they going to say about me? So it ends up being an issue where I am trying to look a certain way to please people rather than trying to please myself and please my God. So, do you know what I mean? If it's just me and God, come on, I can go to a shelter.
Okay, I'm with you. So moving swiftly on, I'll actually ask a cheeky segue because this isn't part of the program, but I was just very intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. Because I was talking about my friends recently. So obviously lockdown, people who are still in uni, college, whatever, they'll still have exams that they have to do. Now, for me personally, my upcoming exam, they've given us 36 hours. One of them's 24 hours, the other is 36 hours. So 24 hours to do an exam. Now, that obviously means that you have the opportunity to do the exam in, let's say, not test conditions, right? So I was interested to know what you guys think. Would you, if you in the situation, would you jump on a FaceTime with all your classmates to do the exam, or would you, and just be honest, yeah, I don't have to just be honest, or would you say, okay, cool, I'm gonna revise like normal and just do the exam, and whatever I get, I get. What you guys doing?
Yeah,
it depends. It depends, really.
Can I answer that one? I actually have my first exam next week, Wednesday. Yeah, and we've got 24 hours to answer, to basically send back the exam, and it's open book. They've definitely said it's open book, but bear in mind, I'm in engineering. I'm not going to lie, it's so hard. It's all maths-based questions, physics and stuff. It's definitely hard. You can look at a paper, at a question for a whole week. They made it an open book, and when we're doing a revision session with one of my lecturers, he fully said, I expect everyone to get 100% because it's so dumb of you to fill the paper when you have each other to help out each other, basically. So they know that the situation that we're in. So I personally, I know I've got 2 modules that everyone knows Vimbai has got strengths in these modules, and people have already texted me, we're going to need your help. And 100%, I am going to help them because I don't see anything wrong with someone succeeding to the next stage if I help them about what I think. I'm not going to give them what I have on paper. I'll probably explain to them how they can go about the question, and I've got a module that I don't have strength in, so I expect them to help me as well to understand. I mean, it's a bittersweet situation where I probably would have failed my studies, and yes, it's come with a way of people are dying, COVID-19, but in a way, God has answered my prayers because I have a module that I didn't know how I was going to pass it. It's realistic. I'm being serious, where I didn't know how I was going to pass that module in so many ways. I would sit down, try and revise for it, but 100%, I have no interest in it, but I have to go through it because it's part of the module. I can't, but I was going to fail. Probably I wouldn't have been able to graduate the first time, and that would cost me my what my company is paying for in terms of me studying for that part. So they expect me to pass, but that module is so hard and I may not be able to pass it. So what then is going to happen? I'm going to have to lose my job. So we can see it in so many ways. I am going to help people because now I can use that as a platform. So many people are texting me like today, and it came when I was like, oh, I can't reply you anymore because it's my sunset. Now it's my Sabbath. People need to know that it's my Sabbath. So they expect to text me tomorrow after sunset. They're so good with their timings as well. So they know tomorrow evening, they're about to text me to ask about a question again that will potentially come in the exam. So I don't see anything wrong, Micheal, in helping each other. So yeah, we're going to do MS Teams on Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. Imagine Daniel and his boys had decided, you know what, I'm going to have chicken on this day, on that day, just to prove that we can survive, because maybe they didn't have faith in the Daniel fast. But imagine on one day they have KFC, on another day they've got Nando's, on another day they've got, now I'm just playing devil's advocate. This is not what I think, by the way. I support your comment, Vimbai, but because in essence, you're saying you're helping other people. But imagine Daniel was eating KFC during his fast.
I do get what you mean. I mean, it's a situation where realistically, I actually haven't prayed about it to actually ask God, what am I going to do in this situation? It's more like I'm so happy that it's going to be an open exam. I'm going to help people. I hadn't thought about it the way you just put it now. But yeah.
I mean, Daniel.
Wait, what does open exam mean?
Open book means
book. You can have answers next to you and do the exam.
Yeah.
So pretty much that exam, it's allowing you to have answers. So it doesn't say how you're gonna get the answers.
I mean,
right?
there's having answers or having your textbook open, and there's being on group FaceTime with everyone in your course doing the exam at the same time.
No, but the lecturer even expected that that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
It's foolish.
Not to do it.
If that's not what you do,
so basically,
don't do it.
Okay, in Vimbai's scenario, right? It's perfectly legal in certain extent, right? So let's talk about situations where, like Micheal, you were asking, I think your question was in regards to if it's not an open book, right?
Yeah, if it hasn't been specified, that's an open book.
Yeah. So if it's like you have to do the exam but not cheating, pretty much. All right. It depends. To be fair. Okay. From a Christian side, yeah. It always says that there's a saying we used to hear. I went to boarding school like 6 years, from Form 1 to up until I finished my A level. We used to hear this saying that human effort plus divine is equals to plus divine intervention is equals to success. I think, Nigel, you know this saying.
I know it.
Yeah. So they said when you always work hard, God will always reward you with whatever. Sometimes, yeah, you may fail, but you've worked hard and it is what it is. So now it comes back to your conviction as well. Do you feel comfortable doing it? Right? Some people used to cheat even in exam situations where we didn't have to do them at home. They still cheated, right? So now it becomes a matter of, as an individual, do you feel comfortable doing it? Have you worked hard? Because if you have worked hard, really hard, throughout the year in preparation of the exam, then I wouldn't see any need of you trying to cheat. If you had not worked very hard, or if you're very lazy or just complacent or someone who procrastinated not to prepare for the exam, then yeah, the easy road is going to be your best option. So it now boils down again to your principles, Micheal, as to what do you believe in and what's your conviction, and were you prepared initially, COVID or no COVID? So it is what it is.
Anyone else?
Okay, can I just add, to think with what Alan was saying, I think, to be honest, yeah, it's what you can live with, because at the end of it, it's you that's going to be doing the exam. And if after all the exam and you get your grade, and in the back of your head you're thinking, wow, but this isn't my true grade because, you know, I cheated, then you're going to have to live with that regret of, oh, I cheated. Even though everyone's going to be like, yeah, you did this, you got the first class degree, in the back of your mind, you're going to be like, I didn't get it, but me and my classmates, we got it. So, and also it's like the mentality is setting you up. Okay, when now I'm in this job, people are going to expect me to know what was in my exam. So if you don't know that, and if so-and-so who helped you knew that, but you didn't know it, then you're just setting yourself up to fail, to be honest, later on. So I would say try your best not to, whoever, not you personally, Micheal, but whoever is doing the exam, try best not to. But yes, whatever you can live
Even
with,
if you know you're going to fail.
Yeah, no, so I think what I would say, yeah, me personally, I'll be honest, because this is Testimonies and Tea, guys. I mean, I'm getting the best grade I can possibly get without making it look like it's dodgy. And I'll be real, because I'll tell you for free. And the thing is, I'm not even gonna revise. Like I'm not gonna. And like you said, whether you can live with it. I can't lie. And if you guys see, you know, graduation pictures of me, yeah, I wouldn't even be thinking about the exam that I achieved. It wouldn't even cross my mind, because hey, I've suffered for 4 years, innit?
100%. I agree with
It's grace. I deserve this.
We're being realistic. I'm being realistic here. I 100% agree with Micheal. And what would be bad of me, actually, I was thinking, because people, when you can feel someone is absolutely relying on you to pass this exam. So what would make me feel bad is me not actually helping them all the way, because I want to do better in this. I'm not going to give them the full answer to then get the same mark as me. So I have to think about that. If I'm going to help them, to what extent am I going to help them? But at the end of the day, when we all graduate, it's going to be, oh yeah, we all made it. That's the whole point. University, you don't get a job in a competition like, oh, so all of you from this university sit down, who did best. It's all about what do you get? Do you have a degree? If they need a minimum of a first, a 2-1, 2-2, it's up to them. But at the end of the day, it's everyone's success that really matters. And to be honest, that's what got me through the whole life in university. You help others. I've never found it a problem to help others to do better in their coursework, because you can see someone is struggling. I mean, in the field that I work in, is very broad, and I'm not good at everything, and we always work as a team. It's literally all about a team. If you're in engineering, it's always a team. It's never an individual situation. So if you get something wrong, it's not a one person blame game, it's a team blame game. So that's basically what they're teaching us. Hence why my lecturer goes, it would be dumb of you guys to not get 100% in these exams. The only thing that they did is they separated, for example, 3 categories of exams. So it would be nice if me and my friends are in the same category, so that I don't have to help different questions, because it would be 3 times the workload basically to help each other. So realistically speaking, I actually don't see anything wrong. And I'm actually trying to think in Terry's example of Daniel, I can't relate it at the moment to say if what I'm doing I don't see anything wrong with me helping or me getting help, because at the end of the day, I'm going to write on paper, what am I comfortable with? I'm going to have to get the best grade possible. And I'm sure they've introduced the safety net. So already I know what my average degree is, because from the time I stopped going to uni, they send an email to say, this is up to today. So if you are to fail university, if you have to get 40%. So if you are to get the 40% pass mark, you're guaranteed your average before the COVID situation. So I already know what my grade is if worst comes to worst. If I just get 40%, I'm going to get, for example, I'm going to get a first. So I already know what my grade is. So at the end of the day, doing the exam, you just want to boost up what's already there from before COVID situation. So people are not really doing passing, and people are just trying to pass. So it's no longer about I'm going to get 100%. It's about what I'm happy with. Am I going, because if I don't get the help, and then when it comes to my degree, I don't get the best degree I could have possibly had, just because I didn't want to feel like I cheated. I don't know.
Okay, Amanda, and then we need to move on because I'm getting messages from production.
Sorry, just before Amanda comments, sorry, I'm trying to keep up with what's being said on the live. Someone said, I think in this particular case, examiners have given themselves to the fact that they're living in trying times. If they're given 24 hours, they have allowed room for people to discuss, so basically help themselves. I think there's a thin line between helping and cheating.
Yeah, there is. I'm going to cheat, but yeah, there is a thin line.
That's what Terry said is what I was going to say. Like, there's a difference, because what Vimbai is so like classmates by giving them ways to answer the questions, so giving them workings out, but not the answer. Does that make sense? So I would say she's more tutoring than like just giving them answers, because cheating is when you say, "Oh, this is the answer,"
I'll write it for you,
or looking up the answer. Exactly. But then tutoring is actually educating someone, because maybe they're struggling, they don't understand, and because there's like they can't speak to the lecturer, or the lecturer is not there, or they understand by seeing someone do it. They then might build like the building blocks to answer those questions when they come in the exam. So I would say 100%, yeah, use each other, like ask each other questions and stuff, but not, oh, here's the answer. But Mikey, if that's what you want to do, go for it, my guy. We'll be there looking at graduation photos.
So yeah, I think I'll just read a verse that I found. relating to what we just discussed with this topic and the other one as well, about like what we're doing. It's Proverbs 16 verse 3, and it says, "Commit your actions to the Lord, and your plans will succeed." So yeah.
I hope that's speaking to you, Michael.
It is. And I'll read it again in devotion tomorrow morning to see if it will sway my decision for the upcoming exam. I'll just read verse 4 as well. It says, "The Lord has made everything for his own purposes, even the wicked for a day of disaster." So yeah, everything works for the good of those that love the Lord. So yeah, with what we talked about before and now, I think that's a very good point to end on. So the last thing that we're going to discuss, the last dilemma, the thing is, I feel like we don't have enough time to discuss this, but we'll see how we go. So in this trying pandemic season that we're in, we have a lot of time on our hands, some of us anyway. So that can lead us to committing sins at a much more vigorous rate than prior, due to the amount of time that we have. Sins such as the ones that can be committed online, so pornography, sexting. For those of you who are aware of what that is, if you don't, I'll allow your Google to be your friend. But so yeah, that sort of thing. So if you're, I'd just like you guys to maybe give some advice, some guidance to somebody who has found themselves, let's say they're I don't know, a uni student or whatever, and they've got just so much time in their hands because they've done all their assignments or they've just been moved on to their next year. What advice could you give to avoid your hands from finding other things to do that can lead them to sinning?
I would say,
no,
okay,
go on. Go on.
Oh, okay. So I would say there's a saying which we were taught in boarding as well. I'll refer boarding school because that's where I went for 6 years. They used to tell us that an idle mind is the devil's workshop, right? So if you don't occupy yourself with things that are meaningful, the devil is gonna, or the world is gonna give you things that are entertaining. And believe you me, there are a lot of things that are entertaining. You would think that probably because there are normal sports, so you're gonna be bored. But nope, there's still Netflix, there's still a lot of things, there's still internet, right? So for me, I'll speak in terms of how I'm coping. From someone that used to be addicted to some of these things in the past, right? So when the pandemic started, and when I knew that I was not going to be working, the company told us, well, for now, no jobs. You're not going to be working. Chill at home. We'll see you in 3, 4, 5 months, and then we'll talk about it to see the situation. I already knew that I had a lot of time on my hands that I'd never had in my life. So the first thing I did was create a timetable, because I knew if I didn't create a timetable or a structure to what I was going to be doing on a daily basis, I was going to fall into a lot of traps. So it might be a trap of me being overweight, eating too much, a trap of being addicted to certain things online. So I had to structure my life. So as a person, if you don't structure your life in a very meaningful way, you're definitely going to fall into these pitfalls. And we always told ourselves that, well, I would like to study the Bible. I would like to watch sermons, but we don't always have time. Now we have all the time. What's the excuse? So the second thing I would say is ask yourself, right now, I don't have any excuse whatsoever, right? What is it that I always wanted to achieve in terms of my spiritual life, in terms of my physical goals, in terms of my even academical goals, or just trying to better yourself in terms of qualifications? So now you have the time, create a timetable, pray about it, and also stick to that timetable. Like for me, I always told myself, hey, I want to have a 6-pack one of these days. Now I have the opportunity to work on it. I don't have any excuse. Go out and run. There's sunshine outside. They're allowing us to do one exercise at a time, per day. Yeah. Do something meaningful with the amount of time that you've been given. The moment you don't structure your day-to-day life, the devil is going to come with other suggestions, and you see yourself eating ice cream on the sofa, watching one episode after another on Netflix, and you might binge watch a whole 5 seasons in 3 days, just sitting there like a zombie. So that's the advice I would give from someone that has lived through those kind of scenarios.
Okay. So, sorry, just before, actually, yeah, go on. I'll add to it before Vimbai and Amanda give their input. Go on.
Right. Depending on what your, I'm going to use the word addiction because Alan has really thrown it in there. Because if you're not addicted to something, then you can easily, stop doing it. But if you're completely struggling with something, then it's beyond your own abilities. If you read in James 2, verse 14, it says, "What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, 'Depart in peace, be warmed and filled,' but you don't give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead." So basically, faith without works is dead. And there are sometimes, as human beings, we do things that end up becoming, compulsive. Like you become addicted to something, and you can't come away from it. You get into certain habit, it becomes part of your character, and now it's very difficult to stop it. If it's a thing where I'm just starting to watch porn now, or I've just started yesterday watching porn, or recently, I'm not yet hooked onto it that much, it's easier for yourself to make those decisions, to say, I'm going to step away from it. But if you're at the point where it's very difficult for you yourself to stop yourself, then clearly you can't do it on your own. So on top of, like Alan has talked about, actually doing the works, do things that will actually help, apart from just praying. I'm going to pray. Let's pray for that brethren over there to stop doing A, B, C, and D because it's not good for them. That on its own is not good. You can't just pray for somebody who's addicted to something, especially at this point where they are 100% exposed to it. Before they would say, if you're addicted to porn, just make sure you spend some time away from home, do other things outside, occupy yourself in the A, B, C, and D, all that kind of stuff. But now you're at home, internet is there, Wi-Fi is working on point, your batteries, you've got a brand new laptop or your phone, and you're thinking, where am I gonna go? I'm not gonna go anywhere. You've watched all the movies out there, you've done everything. Now what's left is to do some streaming of some other stuff. So you gotta be practical. And I think one of the practical things, just in response to if somebody is struggling with an addiction, I don't know about other things, but if they struggle with an addiction, then there are resources out there, places where you can actually go and get help. We can't fool ourselves to think that if you have that relationship with something that's not healthy, you can just close your eyes and pray and it's going to be okay. You actually need to do the works plus the faith, and then it will get better. So you got to be real with yourself. I am struggling with A, B, C, and D. I really need to get help with this. First of all, if you don't admit yourself that there's something wrong, that's the first step. They call them 12 steps, isn't it? That's the first step. If you don't admit yourself, then you're not going to get the help. So if I think that there's something wrong, going back to one of the words that we were using quite a lot, conviction. If there is conviction, then that's good. Then the next thing, I need to get the help. If there's no conviction, then we can have this conversation for the whole day. As long as I don't feel convicted that what I'm doing is wrong, then it doesn't help. So I guess once you get the conviction, and the conviction comes from the word of God, isn't it? Getting into the word of God and letting that word of God be the manual for your life. And when it gets to that point, then yeah. But when that's not there, there's no point telling somebody that doing something is wrong when they're not convicted. I mean, you can read, I'll encourage you to read Romans chapter 14. It says a lot about this, about conviction. Don't just say to somebody, what you're doing is wrong. It's not about that. It's about them knowing that what they're doing is wrong.
Also, to add to that, before someone says, it's not even admitting that what I'm doing is wrong, but it's actually admitting that I have a problem, right? So it's one thing to say, what I'm doing, I don't think it's a Christian thing. Watching naked women, it's wrong. But if you yourself, or naked men, sorry, but if you yourself cannot admit that you actually have a problem, then it becomes harder for you to seek help. And I think sometimes as Christians or as individuals, we personalize sins and now make them our own. So I'll give you an example. You hear people saying that, this is my weakness. It's just my weakness, you know. I have a weakness of lying. It's a weakness I have. Even my dad, you know, it's a generational thing. Oh, I have a weakness of women. I have a weakness of this. I have a weakness of that. So the moment you admit that, it's kind of my weakness, right? You're personalizing that sin, and it's even harder for you to let go because you associate that with your own character. So besides you recognizing that what you're doing is wrong, admit it's wrong. And if possible, I would advise that look for someone that you look up to in terms of spiritually. Some people have a spiritual parents, right? Look for someone that you trust and confide in them that I have this problem and I'm trying to get out of this problem. Can you help me in terms of prayer and advice, and also an accountability partner in regards to whichever addiction you might have? People for different addictions out there, and there help, like what Nigel was saying, there's help out there that can help you to come out of those addictions. So those are some of the things you could actually do. I'm done now.
Cheers for that, Alan. You're taking all the points. But yeah, so Amanda.
I was laughing too hard. Your different accents, yeah. When you talk.
Yes, I can't lie. You know what? We're bad people because all four of us couldn't hear you.
You sound like auto-tune. You sound like T-Pain. We can't even hear what you're saying.
But yeah, go again. Say that again.
Oh, okay. I was saying no, I was laughing all the way through that, not because I was laughing at Alan's point, but because of his accent changes and he's talking about in different people's point of view. But yeah, I just wanted to add as well. I feel like I kept saying when I was going to uni, I kept saying to myself, uni doesn't change you, but it shows you who you really are. And I feel like it's the same with this quarantine, because before quarantine, people were saying like what Alan was saying, oh, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. Or like they didn't realize that they were addicted to different things because they were too busy to not really fully indulge in those things. And now there's no excuse, you can do whatever you want to do this quarantine. It really reveals to you your flaws and your addictions and the fact that you've been making up excuses that are not really true. So I feel like it's now an opportunity to try and, like everyone's been saying, get help for those addictions, prayerfully, because like what Nigel was saying, you can't do things by yourself, especially if it's an addiction. It means that it's something that's holding on to you that you need assistance to let go of. So I feel like prayer is going to be a very deep thing to help overcome those temptations. And it sounds like, oh yeah, that's the Christian thing to say, oh, pray and you will overcome. But to be honest with you, being someone who's gone through different addictions makes it sound so like, ugh. But yeah. Prayer is key, because you realize that it's only God that can bring you out of certain holes. And just as well, in addition to Alan's point about we now have no excuse to not build our relationship with God now, because literally everyone keeps saying to me like, after this COVID, like Jesus is coming soon, guys, so you really need to like build your relationship with him. And I'm like, to be honest with you, yeah, it's true. So we need to start doing things. Like one of my things that I've tried to do, I had to just top up on my tea. One of my things that I've tried to do is do Sabbath school, because all the time I would say I have no time to do my Sabbath school lesson. I have no time to do Sabbath school lesson. Now I have all the time to do Sabbath school lesson. And even now I'm still struggling to do my Sabbath school lesson. So I would say find something, at least one thing that you've made an excuse for, saying that you haven't got time for, especially when it comes to spiritual things, and just try and focus on that. I know that will only take a few hours of your day and distract you for only like a few hours, and then you have the rest of the day to be tempted. But at least then that habit might then introduce other good habits that might fill like your day. So yeah, like Alan took all the points in it, so I'm just gonna add on to what he said.
No, thank you.
Sorry, Michael, I've got a comment from someone on our Instagram DMs, and they basically say that another way to help with dealing with certain addictions is to find, I think that's what Amanda was saying, find something that helps you to not think about that thing. For example, if you're tempted to watch porn or masturbate or do anything along those lines, go jogging, do some knitting, do some baking, cook, exercise. And they said one thing that helped me was that every time I would think about doing it, I would tell myself to do 50 sit-ups. And now I have a six-pack. So basically just do something to distract yourself so you don't think about it, because thoughts lead to action.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think I'll ask this to kind of add on to the question. So everything's online right now. So a lot of the things that we are engaging in, or like you guys are saying, things that you're finding to do, let's say if, instead of watching a certain thing, you decide you're gonna watch I don't know, Whitley Phillips or something, you're gonna watch a sermon, right? You're on the internet, and so then what might happen is that, okay, cool, you've watched your sermon, and then you're thinking, okay, good, amen, great stuff. And then you just find yourself typing in Netflix, or you find yourself typing in or going onto your Twitter app. And then on that Netflix or on that Twitter app, you see this, that, or the other. Or if you go back on Instagram, right? And I don't know, let's say you've started a project and you've started a challenge, right? And you set a challenge for people to do something good with their time. That will also help you to stop yourself finding yourself doing things you shouldn't be doing. But then you're on Instagram, innit? And then you're on Instagram, and then Tory Lanez comes on live, right? And so now, now you're in a situation where what you were doing in order to prevent your idle hands and to maybe help other people, a good cause, you're now in the same avenues or the same areas where other things that can distract you are. So what do you do? How do you prevent those things from distracting you? Because I know personally, if I'm on Instagram and I don't know, I'm looking at a Zustaf post or whatever, I'm on NEC Instagram, and then I see the notification that Tory Lanez is on live and he's doing quarantine radio. Some of you will know, but yeah, I'll click on it. And so what intentions that start off as pure, they then segue into something that I shouldn't be watching. So how do you go about maybe not being swindled into that sort of thing when you're going to be on the same apps, you're going to be on the same internet that all these things are going to be on?
Yeah, just to jump in before anyone else, I feel like it's training your mind, because for anyone that's gone through an addiction, like one thing that they say is you need to identify your triggers, the things that trigger you to then like do whatever the addiction is. So if you know that Instagram, there's people that you follow on Instagram that might tempt you to do things that you don't want to do, then you don't follow them people on Instagram. You need to cut them off. Like if Tory Lanez is leading your mind somewhere else, cut them. Do you know what I mean? It sounds like brutal, but if you really well and truly want to overcome an addiction, you have to do brutal things. Like some people, like who are trying to overcome smoking or something like that, they stop going certain places because they know that those places might trigger them to want a cigarette or anything like that. So it depends how serious and how badly you want to overcome, because sometimes we say, yeah, I want to overcome this, I don't want to do this, I really don't want to do this, but then you put yourself in situations where you know yourself that you're going to be tempted to do that. So I would say know your triggers, and try your best to annihilate them.
Yeah. I was going to say that.
adding.
No,
Go on, Nigel.
I was going to say the triggers point said. I think that's a good one. But also, after you've realized what your triggers are, I think you just need to, even like if you're on Twitter, depending on what platform it is. Because I remember one time, there's a time when people were posting gruesome videos of people's heads being chopped off, or people being killed or shot on Facebook. Or Twitter. It was happening a lot. And seeing stuff like that, I don't like seeing stuff like that. So I would just mute certain content on social media, which means it's never gonna come again. If it's just one account who's constantly posting that, instead of just unfollowing that person, because another person can still, post a similar thing from a different account, you still see it again. But if you just mute that content after realizing what your triggers are, and then it protects you. But then my without adding too much pressure on the table in terms of the questions that we're addressing, how to we still need to figure out how to get better, because I would like to look at an addiction as something as if you're not feeling well. So you can take yourself away from, after realizing your triggers, I can take myself away from those platforms I can unfollow those people, but it doesn't mean that I'm okay now. It doesn't mean that when it comes back again tomorrow, I'm going to be okay. So I guess you then need to figure out how to help yourself to come out of that, to be actually healed completely. So I guess that's the other way. I don't know how. I mean, I can say pray, yeah, which is like the default response. But I guess depending on what it is that you're struggling with, there could be other resources as well out there where you can actually get help in terms of how to, be better.
Yeah, I was gonna add as well on the how. It probably won't work for everyone, but I think people need to stop looking at someone's problem as a problem. So if someone comes to you and say, I have a situation, I have an addiction, a lot of times you look at them differently. Or so people now need to put a platform where it's okay to talk about your issue. It's okay. I'm here for you. I'm here to be accountable. But a lot of times when the word addiction is always associated as something so bad, hence why a lot of people are not open enough about what they're struggling with. So it's a case of being able to understand people go through stuff. So if I'm going through something, I need to be able to know, hey, if I go to my sister, I can tell her about exactly how I'm feeling. So now she's going to be accountable, keeping check on me. What am I doing? I'm not saying every second, check how you're doing. Are you not watching this? But how are you doing today? What can we do? And then it's all about creating an atmosphere that will make the person comfortable. If they feel triggered, they need to be able to pick the phone and call me straight up. I mean, I have a friend where anytime she feels like she's going to do something or she's going to go somewhere with someone she doesn't want to go with, she'll call me straight up or distract me, and then we just have a conversation until that person goes, you know what, you can go home. And it's happened for a long time until the person actually say, you know what, it's better we don't see each other. So we need to be able to realize when someone is dealing with something, a problem, we need to still look at them as who they are before we put the problem in front of them. They need to be able to understand addictions are there. Just because they have an addiction that you haven't struggled with, or you'll probably will never struggle with, does not make them a bad person, or does not make them different to who they used to be before they had that addiction. I don't know if I'm
no, I completely understand. Yeah, yeah. Any last points from anyone? Alan, you wanted to add something?
Oh yeah. So basically, I think going back to your question, where you said you might start off watching a sermon and then end up, on these other platforms. It's, I think, piggybacking to what everyone was saying. One is identifying your triggers. Two, it's proactively making sure that you are far away from your triggers as possible, right? I'll give you examples. So I knew my triggers that there were like certain TV shows I don't watch. Even if I'm on Netflix, I'm very careful. So the other perception out there is some of these streaming services, they're evil. Whereas on these streaming services, where you can find good shows that are educative, right? Netflix as a whole, I think there's a perception in the church that, yeah, Netflix is evil, Netflix is blah, 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 blah. But on Netflix as well, you can actually find good shows like documentaries, things that show you about history, things that show you about nature. You can still find good shows even on all these platforms. I knew my triggers were I can't watch reality TV, because if I watch reality TV, I don't know where I'm going to end up at. So things like I usually have friends who talk about Love Island. I've never watched Love Island. I have no interest of watching Love Island because I know that that can be my trigger. You see? So it's you identifying that trigger and not being ashamed of actually realizing that these are my triggers. Because you might be in an environment where people bring up all these triggers of yours, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, since everyone is, watching this or doing this, let me just join in. And then we end up being back to square one. So be proactive in everything that you do. Nigel talked about actually sometimes unfollowing or muting some of these accounts or these certain people that post certain things that they're definitely things that might affect your spiritual life. Unfollow them, block them. And all these social medias these days, the good part is if there's something that is a bit gruesome or a bit sensitive, they actually tell you. Sometimes, like on Facebook, they actually blur it first, and then you click it, and then you watch, right? So as an individual, just be someone who is proactive. Nigel also talked about, I think he said that all these addictions, it's more all these triggers, it's you identifying your triggers. It's more like you have a headache, you identified the sickness or the symptoms. How are you going to cure that disease, right? One, it's making sure that you don't fall into those same traps. If it was a headache you have every day because you have lack of sleep, what do you do more? You have more sleep so that you don't have that headache. You are proactively choosing to do certain things that you know are going to help you to eliminate that disease in your life. You have some people who are a bit overweight. How do you overcome that problem? Go and exercise every day. You don't sit on the sofa every day. So it's something that you as an individual has to identify that this is my plan. And having a plan, I think people, they underestimate it. Writing things down, having a plan of your own, saying, I'm going to follow this plan, it helps. People think that, oh yeah, you can write a plan down, but I won't follow it. But there's power in writing. There's power in actually praying for what you have written down. God, this is my plan. This is what I want to do to help myself get out of this situation. But I know that I have to put in the work, and God does the rest as well. We cannot just expect that we pray to God, oh, God, help me. I know what I'm doing is wrong. Help me to get out of this. And then you still keep on doing the same thing over and over again. So, yeah.
On that note, thank you guys so much for your discussion, for your input. Thank you everyone who sent in questions and had input on YouTube and Instagram. We'll just end with a prayer. But before I do, I'd just like to encourage you all, everyone who's watching or whatever, if you have any dilemmas, if you have any questions or anything you want us to talk about on this forum, please do feel free to get in touch. We won't bite. And there's also an anonymous way to get in touch, to look out for that as well. And I'll also be posting some of the think notes, I think I can call them, that were mentioned in our conversation today on the Instagram story, just so you can see what we kind of concluded. So yeah, thank you guys so much once again. We'll just have a quick word of prayer before we end the stream. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I'd like to just come to a throne of grace once again, Lord, thanking you for being such a gracious and merciful God. Even though we fall short fall short of your glory. You are still loving to us, even though we don't deserve it. I'd like to at this time just thank you for the fruitful discussion that we've had. Thank you for these individuals who have given their input, who have been honest and open. And I just ask that you be with them in their lives, and also be in the lives of everybody who's tuned in. I hope that somebody somewhere has learned something or gained something more. I'd like to say thank you once again for being with us, and pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Sorry, one thing, Michael, here before I look. Sorry, Terry, before.
No, go on.
So this, I was gonna say the Samaritan's number. So if you really need help with any form of addiction, the Samaritans, you can speak to them 24/7, free, any problem whatsoever. That's 116-123. That's the number, 116-123. Any problem, 24/7, you're available.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nigel. I was really just gonna say that don't forget, guys, we've got our Bible study tomorrow at 4 p.m. and we're gonna be looking at Daniel chapter 10. So please do come in and join us. It's gonna be a discussion like this as well, and we hope you guys will be there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, then bye, guys.
Yes.